Hi guys, and welcome to Legion Live number 3. So, in today's show we've got Nick Beer, who's over there.
Hi everyone.
Next to him we've got Mike Cruaralungisilisis.
Hello, hello.
Below me we've got Tabletop Banter. We've got both of them today. The other one's nipped off to, I don't know. Then we've got Mammoth Painting next to Callum. And then on the far right we've got the Warpforge.
Hey.
Right, so let's have a look. I'm going to start this off with Legion News. News. That was awful. Right, you guys, if you could take it in turns, go through things. I just need to set up a little bit here, so I'm going to go quiet for a moment.
Okay, well, we'll happily go first then if you want.
Yeah.
So, yesterday we started Age of Sigmar. Kind of, I say because of what's going on today. It wasn't really, but that just inspired us to get ourselves into gear. And you can see a little selection of the models we started doing. Our first battle report went up today, so shameless plug, go and check it out. As for the rest of the stuff, I think it's just getting through some battle reports whilst we're both home and that sort of stuff, really. Getting the painting done.
Yeah.
But yeah, a couple of different systems. Should be exciting.
Good fun.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it.
So Mike, been up to recently. I say Mike. Crew Orange Angelis.
That's exactly right. That's exactly it. Got it. You nailed it finally. I've been powering through the old paint what you've got, don't buy what you want challenge, and I'm working my way through a squad of 10-man squad of Blood Angels at the moment. It's taken an age. I forgot how long it takes to paint them. It's tiresome, almost tiresome. It's this is my 110th lot of tactical marines. So
Wow.
yes, but I love it really. So that's what I've been doing. And the Bloodthirster, of course, the Bloodthirster, which was a little sneaky purchase that I shouldn't have bought because I'm painting what I've got, not buying what I want. But it was a kind of a sneaky Christmas / birthday sort of present. So yeah. I'm really enjoying that. So I went back to watch Mammoth's video of your Bloodthirster, Corn Bloodthirster, and sort of for some inspiration. Did you? I didn't see. Did you paint it? Is it painted?
No, he's sat on my table over there looking a bit sad. I've had him for almost a year now.
I was looking for some painting inspiration, so yeah.
Maybe
Okay,
the way around.
soon. Well, yeah.
And the other Mike, what have you been up to?
Go for it.
Hey, trying to get everything sorted, I think. Kind of build Perturabo. He's base coated. I've just had my painting table's an absolute state. I've been eBaying loads of stuff. I've been trying to consolidate all my projects because I'm starting projects quicker than I can finish them. So I should have to be tow up soon, I think, kind of working on colour schemes, but just fighting to get into my painting station. But yeah, it's all cool.
What about you, Nick?
I've been busy doing my terrain stuff for the Terrain Square competition, and I've been doing some Dark Eldar as well. Been trying to build the warriors, which are pretty much finished now. So I'm going to have a video up. I think it's going to be tomorrow. Should be going up, so that'd be cool. That's basically I've been doing the terrain really mainly.
Nice. I've been currently just been doing Nick's painting challenge on me Mega Knobs, as I've said before. I'm just trying to get to grips with flesh because one of the main things I can't really do is orc flesh, and I chose to do the green. So yeah, it's currently a challenge, but at the moment I think I've got a method to the madness, so hopefully I'll be getting them up and running very soon if I know what I'm doing.
And that leaves just me, I think, doesn't it?
Yep.
Right, so what haven't I been doing? I've been working on scenery, I've been working on models. I've actually got... That fell apart. I've actually got some orcs to paint, so some models to paint. I mean, it's been ages since I've done that. So it's a bit of a rarity on my channel at the moment, painting up just normal models. That's about it. So I'll take this opportunity to say hi. So in the chat we've got Scott R, we've got Joel Driver, we've got Ta2 for you. That one's really tricky to say. We've got Bazza from Immortal Uprising Studios. Sorry mate, we tried to get you on, but Skype's been an absolute bugger and we've only got 6 spaces unfortunately. We've got Big Mac Dunskull, we have Sponge Hammer, and I think that's it. Give me a shout if I have missed anybody. Right, so I guess we've all covered what we've been... Oh, there's... Callum and Harry, have you both covered what you were going to talk about?
Yeah. We kicked it off.
Cool. Right, okay, so... What we got next? I guess we'll just kick off with the controversial one. Yeah. Right. Topic for discussion. Right, so we had a poll last week. Sorry, it's been a long day. My brain's working about 2 miles an hour. We had a poll last week, and we basically put it out to you guys to see what you wanted to see in the discussion this week. So that happened, and there was a bit of a battle going on for a while through the week between I think it was Age of Sigmar, the death of Age of Sigmar, something along those lines, and our favourite skirmish games. Of course, all of us were rooting for favourite skirmish games, or most of us anyway. The people that were on last week's show, definitely. Though somebody or some group of people were adamant to make it not so. So we've ended up with talking about Age of Sigmar, or the death of fantasy, or some version of that there sentence. Right, so I think we're going to hand over to our resident expert just to give us a little rundown of what actually happened to fantasy and what brought about Age of Sigmar as it is now. Right, go for it.
Yeah, fair enough. So I think it was about 28 years fantasy was running for. I'd been playing for about 16, 17 years. It was September 2014. We had the first End Times book. So the Return Nagash, and over 7 months they released 5 books, slowly bringing about the end of the world. So I think one of the first lines in the End Times was, the end times will come in, and few actually believed it. And I kind of, not only was it in the story, but it was also that they went, all right, at the end, the world's gone. And I think from March to July last year, we had a bit of a gap where there was the end of the world and the new Age of Sigmar. So fantasy was ranked up massed fantasy battles, whereas Age of Sigmar is an entirely different kettle of fish. They're very much skirmish and small scale, and it's set across 8 different worlds now, the mortal realms. So some of the characters have survived and sort of become gods. So like Sigmar's survived. He established the empire 2,500 years before the end of the world in fantasy. They do refer to it. They kind of mention of the world that was. So it's still sort of there, as well as like Tyrion, Teclis, and a number of other people.
It's not too bad then. So as I understand it, they've gone from sort of having that rank and file structure where you could sort of outflank your opponent, and it really mattered which direction they came at each other. Is that right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So they've got rid of that completely, have they?
Yeah, that's gone completely.
Right.
So it was
made a lot of people angry, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's a tricky thing. That's, I suppose, the biggest question, because I have never ever seen so much hate over a single thing in wargaming. I mean, the absolute storm of hate was insane. But because I've played fantasy for so long, and I tend to play at my Games Workshop quite a lot. About 7th edition, I hit 8th edition and then it ended. 8th edition, no one was playing it for the last 2 or 3 years. Tail end of 7th edition, we must have had about 10 to 12 games every Wednesday. That was like the the dedicated night for fantasy. Near the end of fantasy, because they'd normally, if there was space, they'd accommodate other games, but if it's on a 40k night, you have to wait for clear tables if you wanted a fantasy game. It was getting to the point on the fantasy nights that more people were playing 40k than fantasy, and which was a pretty bad state. And I think the big reason was that it just wasn't shifting. So I know people recently, they've been Age of Sigma-fying new lists. The Tomb Kings have gone. The whole range has been yanked. And I know people have been quite upset about that. But at the same point, I'm trying to think how many years ago it was. It must be about the last decade or so since they split. I've seen 2, maybe 3 armies in store. No one played them. Yeah. They've never been a popular thing. And I suppose the big thing is that when they created fantasy, and it had gone on for almost 30 years, is how long do you continue to support it if it's not selling? If you're churning money in and it's not making any money, at what point do you call it quits? So I think a number of people, I mean, I had 5 or so massive 4,000-5,000 point armies in fantasy, and most of that has gone. I've gone through and cleared it out. Wow. And I mean, it's just, I mean, there's stuff with 9th Age where the community's taken on and sort of made like a 9th edition. Kings of War did capitalise on it. They started releasing stuff for generic things for Beastmen and Ratmen and whatnot. And I think they are the only massed ranked up fantasy game in the market now. So I think they were quite wise to capitalise on that. But yeah, so it has completely changed. But I think a lot of it was to do due to finances, I think, from what I've heard. But Age of Sigmar is doing quite well, despite all the hate. Because I'm trying to think, the last few years on a Saturday in my local games workshop, there's not been any fantasy games. In fact, we tried to do Triumph and Treachery as a thing, and it's 3 to 5 players. And I think I tried it for about 5 or 6 weeks, and at no point did we play a game because we couldn't get 3 players in. In fact, a couple of weeks, I was the only one who turned up. So it just, I mean, I think for a lot of people who've had the time and the money invested in all these armies, and then Games Workshop have gone, we're not doing it anymore. I think that's where a lot of the hate's come from, and I kind of understand that. But
so, was it a minority, a very loud minority? Do you think? With 40K,
I think so.
People just pointing and laughing, and that's what made it blow up to bigger than it probably was.
Quite probably. I think. Because, I mean, Age of Sigmar is completely, if you play 40k, you play War Machine, you've got your usual systems in place. So like points and how to build an army and whatnot. Age of Sigmar just goes, put models down. And it's basically put models down and roll dice. Yeah. It's fun, but you need a completely different mindset. And I think, I suppose for a weird analogy, it's like, whatever you do in your usual war game, it's a stir fry. You can have it with rice, noodles, you can have different stuff in there, different sauces, you get all sorts of different flavours, but at the end of the day, you're stir frying it. And Age of Sigmar's gone, hey look, pizza. And the number of war games who've gone in and tried to stir fry a pizza and went, this pizza's crap. And you're just coming in it from the wrong angle. Instead of your usual stir fry, you need to bung it in the oven, I think that's sort of the thing. I've sort of had to unlearn it. I've had a really, really bumpy road with Age of Sigmar because I've just... In fact, it's interesting watching people play, because when it started coming out and I was really starting to get into it, we started playing it like 8th edition, like normal fantasy. So we, following the rules and stuff, but when you had ranked up units, you just pull all the terrain off the table, because it's not too bad with 40k, you can spread them out, but when you're trying to angle things around and wheel units around, you just took most of it off and you played it like an edition game, and it just sucked. Whereas the people who hadn't played it before and literally read the rules and played it as it should have been, they enjoyed it a lot more. And I think that's the way to do. I think a lot of it's changing the how you approach the game and the mentality. So it's interesting, and I'm kind of getting to that point where playing a full-size game of what would have been a normal fantasy army, or even equivalent size in 40k, it just drags. It really drags. But as a small game, because I know startup cost was one of the big ones with fantasy. That was one of the big gripes, that in 40k you can pick up a box of Space Marines. It's a playable unit.
Yeah.
When you're paying 15, 20, 25 pounds for a box of men, and you need 3 or 4 boxes to make one unit, it spiraled out of control.
Yeah.
So I mean that you can. I know Harry and Callum, that you literally gone out and bought a box each, and then chucked down a game. You don't all the rules. I mean, they've got like an app where you can just download all the rules and all the war scrolls, and it's just straight out of the box and go. It's quite good for that, actually.
He literally gave us the 4-page rule sheet. That is the rule book. And then we made little booklets and stuff. These are free off the internet. Just put them in a little booklet because it's easy to read. But you're right. We went into the shop. We said, "How does this game play?" The guy showed us, kind of, and then he didn't really know all of it, but he showed us roughly the idea. We went to the fantasy range and picked up a box each, and then made our models and played that evening. And it was literally that simple. And that was the other big thing. The rules are easy to pick up, and because we're not coming at this from a fantasy mindset, because we didn't really play fantasy, it's very easy to just do it the Age of Sigmar way. Like you were saying, I think a lot of people who did play fantasy struggled to see the change, or to be able to change the way they played the game, because it's the same model and system.
Yeah.
But if you played it as a separate system, it's actually a lot of fun. And when you put like composition systems in that the community has made, it's fair. As it can be fairly fair. I mean, obviously you can still break the game, but it's about picking your opponent. So
yeah, exactly.
It's like in my area, I've only had one game of Age of Sigmar, and that was with my friend, which I battle reported. It's in the archives on my channel somewhere. But what happened was I thought we were just splitting the start set off, and we were just doing a start set versus start set, the Stormcast Turtles, which I was using, versus the Khorne, whatever, Slaughter Cults they're called or whatever. And what he did was he swapped out a few models, then converted on the Drakes off eBay, the Stormcast Drakes, into a Juggernaut of Khorne. He brought Bloodthirst, and he converted the giant monster from the box into a Demon Prince of Khorne. So I tried using the start set against that with additional Chaos Warriors of Khorne, and I got absolutely mopped up. I only killed the Bloodthirster, and that was it. So I agree to an extent that it's about talking to your opponent first before going in being a dick, basically. But at the end of the day, one of the things I do like about Age of Sigmar is that you can have more intricate terrain. Like you were saying before in Fantasy, you had like one box of like terrain, or like 4 pieces of terrain spread out, and that was it. But with this, you can have more like cityscape battles and more skirmish-esque stuff, so it'll feel a little bit more like Tolkien-esque battlefields. So like you're going up the stairs, you're slamming the hammer in and all that. I appreciate that, but I think ultimately it depends on where your area is. For Age of Sigmar, like I say, I don't think Age of Sigmar is picking up in my area, simply because there's just too many ways of people trying to extort it. But like I say, in other areas, it'll pick up massively because people aren't really looking to win and more in it to have a fun time.
Yeah. It will never be competitive. I think it can't be.
Yeah, I mean, there was I read up a little bit before today, and there was talk of Games Workshop doing like an FAQ sort of thing. So you could ask them what you wanted to see from the game, and they would tell you, like an answer roughly, obviously, because it's the people behind the computers, not the game writers, who are there.
Yeah.
But there was talk of potential point systems and stuff like that, which was quite interesting. So I think that is kind of, people have asked for it. But what I really disliked about it was I read some of the comments, and someone said, "Oh, they're backpedaling already," and it's like, no, it's consumer feedback.
Yeah.
You know, if you go to a restaurant and you say, I don't like this soup, and then you come back the next time, they change the soup. You don't go, you're backpedaling. You know, you thank them for making a nicer soup. So I don't
What do you think the idea behind having no points system of Age of Sigmar is? Because I can't get my head around why they've done that.
Well, I think it's just so that you're not going to be arguing with somebody saying, "Oh, that's not balanced. This isn't balanced."
Because nothing is balanced.
Because
everything's
balanced. You can't complain it's not balanced because it's like, well, yeah, obviously it's not balanced.
Yeah, I mean, let's take 40k as an example, right? If I go into a 1500 point game against the Necron Decurion detachment, and I'm just playing like, I don't know, Imperial Guard, I'm not going to win unless I take 2,500 points.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's not balanced in the 40k rules, so I don't know if it was the same before in Fantasy, but to take away that element of, oh, it's not balanced, they made nothing balanced, so you can't really complain about it. I think that's the way they went, and we, like I said, we bought a box each yesterday, and we played a game. Whereas if you want to play 40k, they'll say, "Oh, how many points are you playing?" And the local meta might be 1,500, so you'll have to go and build a 1,500 point army just to play a game.
And they do have the sudden death thing now as well. So if obviously that's counter it a little bit, but I think it's going in the right direction. I don't think it works properly.
No,
I think
So obviously, I know people have like used their wounds, haven't they, to like try to make sort of points. But let's say that wasn't the case, and it was just we were playing it the GW way, and let's just say I said to Mike there, I said, all right, let's have a game of Age of Sigmar. I'll come round to your house. How do we like negotiate what we're going to play? Do I just literally turn up with any models that I like, or how does it work from GW's point of view?
The way they do it is you bring however many models, and you basically take turns putting units down, and it's, I suppose you're kind of trying to balance it yourself in a way, because what was it? I was a Throne of Skulls, the first one they did for Age of Sigmar, and I was really curious to see how it actually work in a sort of a competitive scene, and they just went, bring whatever models. I thought they'd institute some wounds or whatever sort of points cost system that they might try and bring in for the Throne of Skulls. They didn't, and I thought, I can't see how this is going to work in a tournament scene. And there was someone who'd done a write up, and they said that it depends on how you go in. And I think if you go in to be an arse hat, and I think you'll always have your people who will win at all costs, who will bring whatever broken things. When people go, I'll bring 100 Bloodthirsters. If you're really willing to spend $7,500 retail price on 100 Bloodthirsters, and build them, take them all in to play one game, and everyone goes, "Well, I'm not playing you." It's. I don't know. I remember the same argument with Apocalypse when you could go, "Bring whatever you want." I know there's still points there. People, they're going to bring whatever broken thing. I've never seen it, either that or people then stop playing them pretty quick because it just highlights your knobheads pretty quick. But apparently it worked. The Throne of Skulls, I think there was someone with Nagash and an Undead Legion that was a bit over the top in the first round. They said after that, everything leveled out. So it's trying to be fair with your opponent. Because I know Games Workshop for a long time have said, it's not a competitive game. It's all about going down and having fun, and even with the point system and whatnot. And I think it was more of an experiment because they were yanking the plug on fantasy and sort of give you a use for the old fantasy models that they weren't completely getting rid of it. They've done a lot of things that Games Workshop haven't done. Like we'll put an app out, we'll give you free rules, we'll give you all these sort of bits. So I think it was very much an experiment to see, well, what if you just brought models to have fun, and there's no points cost, because they've always had grief for whatever's broken. New Eldar Codex, the Craft World book came out and everyone's crying, cheese, it's broken. You're an Eldar player, right? Well, put that to the side because you're a knobhead if you use it. And I think back to 3rd edition 40k. I remember having a game against Blood Angels, and I'd never played the Rhino Rush before. And first turn, they all belted across, piled out, and I lost. It was like, what? And there's always something new, with the net lists and stuff. It's something that's never gone away. So I think if they remove points costs, you sort of, whether it's self-balancing, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I think it's something so weird to sort of get your head around.
Yeah. Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, it's People who are watching in the stream will see some pretty strange things happening right now because it's screwed up completely where the webcams were, and I'm just trying to sort it, and I cannot for the life of me figure it
The
out.
scrap code.
So everybody's completely missed out of order. It's just bonkers. So I'm going to go quiet for a minute, and people are going to disappear and then reappear, and hopefully we'll be in the right place. So, sorry, keep talking amongst yourselves. I am going to try and fix this.
I think when it comes to playing someone, a friend of mine told me a story of when his girlfriend's first ever game of 40k. She had Sisters of Battle, and she went to play someone in the shop, and they turned up with the that Khorne with the massive axe, and it's got tracks. I can't remember the name of it now.
Blood Crusher.
No,
Lord of Skulls.
Yeah, Throne of Skulls. That's the one. Yeah, not that guy, the skull chap. He turned up with that and some other broken stuff, and it's like, how do you beat that? And that's what my friend asked me, and I said it's quite simple. You pack your models away, because I mean, I don't want to play a game against someone who's just going to go out of their way to make my life a misery for like 4 hours. Like, at the end of the day, I want to have fun when I'm playing my game. And if someone turns up to a game of Age of Sigmar, if I'm like, hey, do you want to go have a game of Age of Sigmar, and they turn up and they bring the 100 Bloodthirsters, I'll just pack my stuff away and go find someone else to play. And they'll soon run out of people to play against. And then they'll realise that they need to just dial it back a little. So in that respect, it's kind of self-leveling, because if you want to play a game, you'll have to tone off the things you bring, or play someone who also goes crazy.
Yeah.
So although there are no points, there is like that kind of self-leveling in the fact that you're not going to play against someone who you don't find fun to play against.
There's a
You guys
social
can hear me,
aspect.
right?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think that also depends too on if you know your opponent as well, because I've dealt with both players before where they show up with things that are just absolutely ridiculous, and then you also show up with people who just want to run a fluff army. I think the best thing to do is if you want to run something where you can communicate with them first and see what kind of list you guys want to run. But if you're just going to come up to a hobby store and just look for a game right then and there, I find that's when you normally will run into a lot of cheese players, because sometimes you might have the guy who other people don't want to play. If you're new there or something, he'll immediately jump in. Yeah, I'll play. And I've had that happen quite a few times. So, but normally, to tell you the truth, I just play the game out. My whole idea is, well, if he's going to be playing something absolutely ridiculous, how fair can my list stand up to something like that? And if anything, it just kind of shows me what the threshold is on that.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, there are times when I've gone against like Venom and Raider spam with just tactical Marines on foot, and it was fair to say things weren't looking up. So instead, I was just like, okay, I'll play for the draw. I will be that guy. I'll just hide all my miniatures behind the line of sight blocking terrain, and I'm just not gonna give you the satisfaction of winning this out and out. So, yeah, I can understand that too. But I mean, if it gets to the point where it's just beyond reasonable, I'd have no problem with walking away from a game before it starts. To be honest,
it definitely depends. I think the game that I would probably walk away from first would be if someone has an absolutely ridiculous deployment, like if it's Imperial Guard or Tyranids, and they just slap 500 models on the table. I'm going to be like, all right, dude, I'm not going to sit here and just watch you deploy for like an hour. Something like that would annoy me. But if someone's got like 10 Bloodthirsters they want to throw on the table, I'd just be like, hey, you know what? At least the deployment's quick. Let's just do this. But if it's just people trying to put little guys up on buildings and, all that other stuff, that gets very annoying for me, because I'm like, just, hurry up. That's one of the reasons why I sold my guard, was because I had so many models on the table, and I didn't like the idea of having my opponent just sit there. And it's like your turn takes so long on top of your deployment, because you just have so many things to shoot, your orders, all that other stuff. I don't know how it is now, but I still imagine you have a lot of models. But that's something I definitely did not enjoy.
I mean, I've got like 500, 600 points of guard, and even I find it a bit of a hassle, to be honest, in the smaller game. Yeah, I know. I'm all infantry, so...
It's in movement phase, I'll go get a cup of tea.
Yeah. I'm thinking movement trays. Just make a little movement tray for 40k.
I've seen people with cultists, blobs of 40 cultists, they literally just on a tea tray, just push it across the table.
I think there's a place on eBay called War Games Tournaments. They do like 40k movement trays for like large hordes of models. And as an orc player, I can tell you, we hate it as much as you do when it comes to moving blocks of models.
Yeah, but I think
it makes for a good cardio workout, though.
What's the general consensus on Age of Sigmar from you guys then? Is it something you see yourself potentially getting into, or is it more a case of it just doesn't suit your gaming needs? And if not, why? I think that's an important question. Just throw that out there.
To tell you the truth, I haven't a clue about it.
Yeah, well, should I start?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not going to be doing Age of Sigmar. I've got nothing against it. I did actually consider doing fantasy at one point many years ago. Bought the Codex. Well, not Codex. What Army book is it called?
Army books, yeah.
Army books. I was going to do dwarfs. I had the book, had the main rule book, and then all my buddies sort of dropped out of it, so we didn't end up doing it. I'm sort of thankful now. But yeah, I basically just I'm too committed to 40k.
Have we just lost Nick? Oh.
So from my point of view, I've got nothing against it, but I wouldn't. I'm not going to do it.
That's fair enough.
I myself am weaving in and out of it. Like, I did fancy a little bit back in with the vampire accounts. One thing I absolutely loved about that book was the vampire rules, and you had the special vampire rules where you could flesh out your characters and stuff, and I absolutely loved that because I used to go for the character killer, because I used to just build them up to just swipe out characters, and any character that came into me Vampire Lord's path, I just went swipe. And it was like a combined harvester for characters, and I absolutely enjoyed that. But when Age of Sigmar came around, I'm like, I sort of want to, because at my Games Workshop, that's literally just across the road, I want to get into it in the sense that I think it'll be fun just to have Mr. Tree Lord over here, Mr. Tree Lord of Mr. Wood, of Woody McWoodwood, to just slice.
What was going on then?
I don't know. Like I say, with 8th edition, we kind of phased in and out because I think 40k is the dominant game in our area. But at the moment, with the Games Workshop and Age of Sigmar, I'm sort of yes and no, but I think I'm going to stick to me 40k at the moment and build that up and paint it up so I can get reports in before starting anything other bigger.
So if I could just jump in here, what exactly did they do with Age of Sigmar? From my understanding is that they kind of dumbed down the rules a little bit, and they just try to make it more streamlined. And I was kind of looking at, if that's the way they did it, in my opinion, like if they did something like that to 40k, I don't know. That's like the equivalent of buying a codex. You open it up, and it's like a pop-up book. A Space Marine comes out, and his eyes are glowing. It's like, for the Emperor or something. And I don't know. It's like, it seems like they're dumbing it down to an extent. But to be honest with you, if they had a book like that, I'd probably actually buy it. That's actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
But overall, it just seems like they kind of wanted to dumb it down a bit. But then again, you guys are the ones that actually probably buy the models and play it and everything, and I haven't done that. But from everything that I've heard, that's basically what they did, was they try to streamline it. And I don't like that, especially because if you have an intricate story, I think the rules should kind of flow with that to an extent. Now, I know you want to have simplistic rules the best that you can. You don't want to have anything too complicated, but I think the rules can reflect a rich history or background to a game. And if you've got all these characters with all these different special rules and abilities and stuff, it should reflect that.
Well, I think it's you know, they knew fantasy's dying. I think everyone knew that fantasy's dying. That's what we talked about. And I think if they say, well, we don't need to release new rulebooks, we don't need to release new codex, we don't need to release FAQs all the time, we don't need that support, let's create a game where, you know, if it's not popular, who cares, because we're not pumping too much into it, we're already reducing the models. So I think it's a good way that they sort of kept it going, rather than just sort of discontinuing the range and just discontinuing it, which they sort of did. I know, like, with Lord of the Rings, I mean, there's that whole thing still going on, but they just sliced that was gone.
Yeah.
And let's face it, GW are not afraid to, you know, change things up, you know, no matter what it is. I mean, obviously, like Battlefleet Gothic, you know, not doing well, it's gone. You know, they're not afraid to do something like that. So
we have to remember, of course, they are a business, and a business, it runs in for its best interests, you know, in economics, so to speak. Profit maximization is what every business should aim for. So if it's not selling fantasy figures, then it has to do something about that. You know, and I guess that a lot of times a lot of the arguments I've seen online and stuff, it's always like, oh, they don't care about the people. I was like, yeah, well, you don't go into Starbucks, ask for a coffee, and when they say it's £3.50, you don't go, but that's really unfair. You just pay for your coffee and you go to work, or you don't buy the coffee. It's like,
well, I think what led to the death of fantasy was the lack of support, if that makes sense. We all know 40k is a dominant game, and they kind of really like to advertise that over and over again, as opposed to fantasy or Battlefleet Gothic. I, for one, would love to start Battlefleet Gothic with a Night Lord's fleet, but alas, I can't do that anymore. But that was mainly because they didn't really support it. They didn't do the regular codex updates like they do with the 40k ones at the moment, like they're doing with Age of Sigmar, constantly expanding the Stormcast Eternals with those massive giant dragons, which to me looks like the equivalent of the Comstar, the sword and the tank dragging closer. I want to hit them with my sword, and you have a giant tank or a giant dragon in front of you. So I think what it was they advertised too much on 40k because they know 40k is where the money is, as opposed to everywhere else where they could have done a fair amount on each game and brought more support to each game. But alas, I think 40k won the day.
Yeah, I can definitely agree to something like that. I'm surprised they didn't do a strategy like they do for 40k, where they just take, they'll release new models and they have like a new codex and then just give it like ridiculous rules. So I'm surprised they didn't like release a Bloodthirster and give it like Menstruation Rage, getting like 30 attacks and it charges like 30 inches across the table or something like that. But then again, I don't know fantasy rules, so I might be completely arrogant in that statement. But anyways, so overall, I didn't know fantasy was dying that bad. I thought it was actually doing pretty good. I thought it was just something that they decided to move. But if it was dying and they felt that they had to streamline it more, I guess in some ways that makes more sense as a business stance. So that at least you can kind of keep the models moving, and it's not just it's not like a stagnant pool that's just sitting there.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things for the business thing, I think I read somewhere that in the last year fantasy was around, it only got 17% of Games Workshop's turnover came from the fantasy line, books and models. So when you look at that and you think, okay, so they only do like one other game. That just makes me think like, okay, there's a reason it died. But going back to what Jacob was saying, when you said you couldn't start Battlefleet Gothic, I think this is something that actually could be addressed now. I mean, you can. There are rule books, there are ships, you can get them off eBay, and in the same respect, there's nothing stopping you from playing Warhammer Fantasy 8th Edition with your friends.
Yeah.
And no, I'm not saying that's the ideal situation. If I was a hardcore fantasy player, I would want new books and stuff, yeah, sure. But there is absolutely no one saying, it's not like GW are going to chase down every person who wants to play a game of 8th Edition and go, sorry, you can't do that? It's not a game anymore?
Yeah.
So I think when you talk about old dead games that get axed and stuff, you can still play them. There is nothing stopping you from playing them with your friends. You just got to understand that it's not going to be updated, that's all.
How many people still use Windows XP?
Yeah, that's true. Windows XP is still used on computers, but it's definitely not the newest one. So
Yeah, exactly.
same thing. Yeah, good point.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would just argue that to an extent the game probably feels a bit empty, knowing that you're not going to have any backup other than maybe something that a fan would throw in there. But either way, I do definitely agree that at that point, because look at 40k, people making their own campaigns and stuff like that. So that can definitely, if you have a rich environment with a lot of friends to play with, I think it could easily keep going. But if you rely on a league or something, or maybe you just have a store with a couple of players and that's it, they're not really close friends or something, I can see that getting empty very, very quickly if you're not going to be updating to a new edition and if they change and you're not or something. So I guess it goes in so many different ways, but it is definitely true that, I mean, hey, you can just play. I hear there was people that still play 3rd and 4th edition for 40k because they didn't like any of the newer editions.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with any of them, really. I think it's kind of cool to update it, but definitely if you're going to gut the whole essence or the core of something, sorry, I'm choking on my spit, but but if you're gonna like gut the core out of something, then I can definitely see it going downhill pretty quickly if you're not gonna keep up with the new times or any updates.
I'm guessing nobody's seen Ninth Age then.
I've seen a bit about it.
So basically, what's happened with like Gorka Morka and Necromunda and that sort of thing is that the community has basically taken it on and they've built a living rulebook whereby all the best suggestions from the community all get shoved into a book and it basically carries on and gets better and better without GW, essentially. It's happened for Necromunda, it's happened for Gorka Morka, Necromunda, I think Inquisitor and Inquisimunda. So basically, what these guys have done is they've taken, what's the last edition? Eighth time? Eighth edition. So
Eighth
they
edition.
called it Ninth Age because basically it's Ninth edition in their eyes, and they've taken Eighth edition and they basically just continued it on. I mean, you can get the rule book, you can get all the army books, so you've got your codexes there. It's going to be continuously improved by the community. So the resources are there basically to carry on.
Yeah, I had done a little bit of reading before I started looking at, because fantasy was something I recently started watching on like battle reports on YouTube and stuff, just because I've actually sort of pretty much run out of 40k ones to watch. So I was like, oh, what else is there? So I went to fantasy, started watching a lot of those, and I was just thinking like I would want to get into this, but obviously with the dying and everything, so I did have a little read into the Ninth Age, and it does look pretty interesting. And you're right with the way that it updates itself, like with community suggestions. It's the same principle as the ITC rules and stuff. When new codices get released, they get FAQ'd. That's through community suggestions most of the time. So I do like that idea, though obviously it's not supported by Games Workshop, so you can't go into Games Workshop and play it. And I think that's where a lot of people were saying it was not right. That's why they want their fantasy still. But it just gives local gaming shops, a few more people every day, I suppose. So it's not all bad.
You can't actually go into my local GW and play. I live in Derby, which is pretty much just down the road from Games Workshop headquarters, and literally in the store you've got like two
tables,
4x4 tables. It's ridiculous. I think they've got two 8x4s and they've just chopped them straight down the middle, and they're having like demo games on the 4 sections. You can't actually play a game of 40k in there. It's ridiculous.
Really?
And this
That's exactly like my 40. My 40k. My Games Workshop over here too. It's the exact same setup with the two 4x4 tables, and the guy, we are actually doing normal games there, and he told us to stop. And he goes, "We don't want normal games here." He goes, "If you do want to play a game, it's got to be 500 points or less." And we basically don't want people crowding around tables. We're here to basically sell product, not play games. So I was like, "Oh, okay."
Wow. Yeah. No, that's not the same in Swansea. In Swansea, for one weekend, they actually piled all the tables together and got everyone in for an apocalypse game. And they're the complete opposite. They just push for people to play massive games.
Wow.
So I think that depends who the store manager is. But yeah, I know that you said. What were you saying about Derby store?
Is it Derby do it like where they have like special nights, don't they? Where you go and then they change the layout of the store.
Yeah. So for like
you do that.
Yeah, a night or two a week.
I think it's Thursdays and Saturdays. Or Thursday night.
Anybody who knows Derby might notice that this is actually the Derby skyline on my t-shirt here. Anyone? No. Never mind. Have all the webcams died? What the hell? I'm not sure what just happened. I think everybody's webcams just died, and I was left talking to myself.
Oh, right.
Did any of that get through?
We got too close to the eye of
I didn't hear it.
Didn't hear any of it. I was just saying that my t-shirt is the Derby skyline.
Oh, cool.
It's a Derby Brewers company top. We've lost the Warp Forge. We've lost them to the Warp. What's going on?
Yes.
Whoa, we've lost everybody. Hang on.
Everyone.
No, we're back.
Okay.
That's just doing waiting.
Technology.
Indeed.
What are your views on this, Mike? Or Mike Curious Orange, as we have
Curious
two.
Orange.
Curious.
Well, I'm a Games Workshop shareholder, and I think it's all about the shareholders, if I'm honest.
Oh shit! Right, we've lost everybody. Technical problems.
Hello.
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 Whoa. Okay.
I just lost everybody. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
So rude, mate.
My thing just died.
We just need Nick back on now.
Fair enough.
We need our fellow chav.
Indeed.
We'll grab him.
No, it's not working.
Sorry.
My brother at arms. Fucking hell.
Right. We're all roughly in the right place, so let's carry on. He'll pop up at some point.
Away with Mr. Shareholder himself.
Sorry, what were you saying, Pete? Before all that happened?
No. I mean, I think it's all about. Like you said before. It's all about the income coming into the company, isn't it? To placate the shareholders. That's what they're always on about. You go to the shareholder meetings, and that's what they talk about. 40k has always been the most popular, and like Callum was saying, with the 17% fantasy kind of share of Games Workshop, which is accurate. So you're looking at a huge proportion of 40k, and what they're doing now with the release of Betrayal at Calf and the kind of board games they're releasing now with the Overkill and this Lost Legions coming out, isn't it? And all the other stuff they're going to be releasing, moving towards the kind of short, sharp.
Not again.
Coming through the doors, get new people buying these products to get the coffers rolling in, I suppose. I mean, like you said, fantasy was dying a slow death, unfortunately, and they had to do something to kind of save it, I suppose, to not waste all of the molds and all the work they've done in creating all those wonderful models. To be fair, because they're fantastic models, aren't they?
Oh,
and they were never just going to dump it all in the skip, whether they had to do something with it. And I suppose this was the I don't know, well, not an easy option, but certainly a viable option for them, which seems to be working. I mean, I don't know, I've not heard yet how it's comparing to fantasy as it was.
Well, I mean, when we went into the store yesterday, the guy who ran the store, he literally turned around and said there are days when he sells more Age of Sigmar related models than 40k.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, hang on, yeah, Nokia over there. But, yeah. I mean, whether that's true or not is debatable. But if it is, I mean, that is interesting because
I didn't think he knew what Age of Sigmar was.
Yeah,
he started teaching us how to play 40k. So.
But no, I mean, it is interesting to see how they have tried to salvage it. I guess it's the whole like lose a leg to save the body sort of thing. So
yeah.
I mean, yes, you're going to anger maybe a small minority who make a lot of noise about it, but at the end of the day, if that keeps 80% of, or let's say even 50% of the old customer base and brings in a new 50%, that 50% are going to buy models. So I can see why they did it.
Yeah, and they're really pumping them out, aren't they? I mean, the models the new models that are coming out now, I mean, they're coming out thick and fast, aren't they? So it's clearly been in the works for a long time, isn't it? It's been the plans for it must be years, mustn't it? I mean, you see the stamps on the sprues, back 2014, stamps on sprues and stuff. So clearly, it's been in the works for a long time.
Yeah,
I think something that's definitely changed too is that if you look at like the way they changed the marketing from 40k and fantasy, that they seem like they were really dark, very gritty. And I noticed it now, including the new models from both sections. They're very bright, very colorful, and I don't want to say necessarily cartoonish, but they tend to have that drive a little bit more compared to it being like real dark and gritty. So I think they're definitely changing their marketing campaign for probably younger people that would be more interested in that type of look rather than seeing some old black and white scribbly kind of looking, rugged picture of a space marine, or I don't know what fantasy has, some bloodthirster guy. I don't even know. But anyways, I do have to say that definitely on the fantasy section, Age of Sigmar got some really, really cool models. Yeah. And that's definitely something that I did notice that once they came out with that and they just started pumping out all these new models, I couldn't help but look at them and go, wow, these are just some really cool looking models. But I do have to say that I did not like the artwork too much. I do like a lot of that old gritty looking artwork.
I think they're trying to make that a lot more fun. Like, obviously trying to bring, you got that grim dark 40k. That's going to be serious players, people that can spend a lot of cash, build big armies, go to tournaments, and then ACY bring the younger guys. I mean, because there's stupid rules. There's an Empire character where if you have a better moustache than your opponent, you roll ones.
The glittering warhost or whatever it was from the High Elves. Or
High Elves, if you laugh or break a smile, you get a mortal wound or something like that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like that. And those are legit rules that are written down.
I think what they've done with Sigma is they've tried to broaden their who they can target with this game. Because if you look at fantasy, you have to be of an age where you could read a full novel effectively and remember it all just to be able to play a game. Whereas with Age of Sigmar, you get a 4-page crib sheet, which has probably got like the comprehension reading age of like 4 or 5. So you'll be able to just get straight into it. So they've broadened their horizon from adults to adults and children. I think that's...
that rule book is shorter than most board games these days, isn't it? I mean, some of the board games you get these days, it's like 40, 50 pages of rules of a board game, isn't it? And it's a tabletop skirmish game now, really, isn't it? And in 4 pages. Accessible, if you're into that sort of thing.
It's amazing, really. That's 4 rules, and it's not that much more simple than a game like 40k.
No, I mean, once you get into 40k, you realise actually the only things that are missing from Age of Sigmar are the big nuances. So if I play a game of 40k, I reckon I could condense the 40k rules into 4 pages. Not all of them, admittedly, not like all the little things, but the core rules, you could probably do that.
Yeah.
I just think it's missing all those little nuances, and who knows, that may come around in the future with all the FAQs and that are coming up. So,
I mean, at the end of the
then there's a lot of
book. Sorry, Karen.
Sorry, no. There's a lot of special rules on the war scrolls. So, like standard bearers do completely different things, whether it's a clan rat who's got it or a skeleton who's got it. So there's a lot that's put in through there, as well as scenarios and terrain. Pretty much every terrain piece has got special rules in it. So it's sort of, you can have it as simple as you want if you just we'll just play it basically, or if you want to add tons of terrain and scenarios and you've got all these extra special rules. I think that adds a lot of depth that isn't essentially in the rule book.
Yeah. There's more than one way. Oh, no, after you, Greg.
I was just going to say that in the back of the 40k books, and all the 40k books that I've had, which was 5th and 6th edition, there is actually a couple pages summarising all the main rules. Just everything on those 2 pages. So, by the sounds of it, all they've done is they've created one of those for Age of Sigmar, and just left out all the rest of the crap to be put into the specific army stuff.
It's literally just...
And some of it isn't even the rules. Some of it's like, this is how you can choose to set up your table and stuff.
Oh, right, so they've gone that far as well. Yeah, maybe
that largely reminds me of Assault on Black Reach.
Yeah.
They gave you that little pamphlet in there, and they just kind of gave you some basic rules to go over. But they still supplied you with the rule book as well, so that way if you just wanted to jump in and play some basic games, you can do that, and then if you progress and got used to it, you can go into the rule book and really get into specifics. I think that was a perfect way of really dealing with complicated rules like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's the same for the X-Wing starter set, actually. When you buy the starter box, it comes with an advanced set of rules and a just starting set of rules. And I think that's a good way to do it, to be honest. But obviously, they just didn't do the second half, like the full set. So.
Yeah, Attack Wing was just like that. I mean, my son and I, we opened it, we read the sheets, and we played a game straight away. And then the next time we played it, we took half an hour, read the main rule book, and then we played like a proper game as such. It's good having both sets of rules.
Infinity have done exactly the same thing. You can get a free copy of basically the rulebook, and it's really, really cut down, and it's got starter games. It's even got suggested different armies. It's actually got suggested armies for all the different factions as well. So you can play with any models you've got for the different factions and play just a starter game.
Does that beg the question then? Have Games Workshop actually been listening all along, but just not replying? Because I mean, I know they don't have the greatest reputation in the community for customer service and that, but if you take that for an example, all these other games have put out the smaller starting rules and that, and it's obviously popular. Have they actually been listening?
Maybe.
I
had a
what
chicken.
it is.
I think what it is. Skype. You gotta love Skype. Go for it. Carry on.
I think what it is with Games Workshop, it isn't necessarily the fact that they're not listening, as the majority of the community seems to follow suit if you go on the Wargaming forums and all that. I think they do. I think they do read the forums and stuff. They just don't communicate, so they'll pick up on things. And what I've noticed, especially now the age of Kirby has went, they're starting to explore in more and more areas, like for different franchises. So, for example, there's a place, I can't remember what, but they've started doing fashion designs for Warhammer 40k. One of them was you could put up to a vote between a Death Company leather jacket, a Tau hoodie or something, and a Commissar jacket. And I think what it is they are exploring out more. I think that's what it is. And not being as stagnant, and therefore doing a lot what the community wanted them to do for years. If that makes sense.
Earlier we were talking about fantasy only have like 17% of the market share. Obviously, 40k being the majority. How do you guys think that 30k is going to affect 40k? Do you think it's a threat to 40k?
No, because they're compatible. I think that's the big thing. You can play a 30k army against a 40k army. So because
in
they're
all
so
instances,
compatible.
like
Do they not have no Xenos though?
if you're playing fluff, yeah, the Eldar as we know it didn't exist. Craftworld Eldar came about in like the 31st millennium. Is it millennium? And basically
Yeah.
before that, all there was Dark Eldar, essentially Eldar being bad. Which
No, the Eldar were established. Eldrad was knocking around because there was a bit with Lorgar. Yeah, was it? Oh, it was Fulgrim. I like
In Fulgrim, isn't it?
Fulgrim book 5. Yeah, he ends up. He chokes an avatar to death.
But would he have been? Would he have been like a Craftworld Eldar person, or was he just like the Dark Eldar? Because basically they were all
he was,
Dark Eldar at that point.
No, there was the craft worlds were going around because at the end of the heresy, they end up pushing all the traitor legions. In fact, the craft world Eldar, the Dark Eldar, what was it? The strife, the sundering or something, whatever it was, where Slanesh was born and the Eye of Terror was created. That there was a massive warp storms, and it was called the Age of Darkness, and humanity was isolated. And when Slanesh went, it basically enabled the Emperor to go, right, I'm taking over the galaxy because we can travel through the warp now. And that started off the Great Crusade, which cascaded into the Horus Heresy.
Was that
I thought it was the other way
Eldar
around.
called Strike Force? I do remember an Eldar army in the Ioterra Codex. I think it was called Strike Force, and they had like access to webways and stuff. That's before there was the webways that Dark Eldar had. No one remember that? In the Ioterra Codex. It's called Strike Force.
Yeah.
Ulthwaite, I think it was.
The Ulthway, yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds about right, because that's basically what the Dark Eldar do now, because they're the only ones who can live in the warp out of the Eldar. Or the webway, as it were. The craft worlds have had to go away.
Is obviously very popular, isn't it, at the moment?
What's that, sorry?
I said 30k is very popular at the moment. So it's beyond the uprise.
Yeah, that's only because of Betrayal at Calth, to be fair.
Yeah.
Well, even before that, it was really popular.
I listened to the Overlords. And,
it wasn't.
Sorry. I'll go. I was just to say I listened to the Overlords, and they call the Overlords 40k, but the last time I heard them actually talk about 40k on their podcast was probably 6 months ago. It's all 30k now. It has been
But
for
that is
long
because
time.
it's accessible, though. Like, before, you had to place a Forge World order and, take it out against your mortgage and then, do all those things. Whereas now you can walk into Games Workshop and buy a box that has an army for 30k in it. For £100. So I would say the only reason it's really, really popular is because it is more accessible.
People like the story as well.
Yeah, the story's cool because it's got Garviel Loken in it, and he is awesome.
There's a lot to be said about the story because the Horus Heresy and all that it's a singular story.
Yeah.
And I think that's with all the amount of books that's been out there, and they've been out for a very, very long time. I remember reading some Horus Heresy books years and years ago, and people always liked that story, and then suddenly when that comes along, they can sort of live it. Whereas everyone's excited about that from 40k because 40k can be anything. I think it's nice people can sort of you can focus because if you read a book, we're reading Gaunt's Ghost. I was like, I'm going to get Imperial Guard and I'm going to make Gaunt's Ghost. You can suddenly do that, and Games Workshop are telling you here it is, do it.
Yeah. Do you think the 30k then is basically, rather than being a competitor to 40k, is actually like a brother and sister, and they can work together?
Definitely.
Well, pretty much all the
overtake 40k, and then 40k would be Sigmarized, and then 30k could potentially be like the main gaming system. Do you think there's room for both of them to run at the same time?
Oh, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
On 40k being Sigmarized is along the lines of you don't shoot the prize-winning cow.
Yeah.
If it's making 80+% of the profits, why would they axe it?
Well, that's it. Maybe it is now, but what happens if 30k becomes the most popular game? 40k gradually dwindles down. It's only 20% there. Do they Sigmarize it then?
It would happen.
Or
Yeah.
we're talking like 30 years
Maybe.
down the line potentially.
A long
Because
old time.
that's
Yeah.
sort of happened with Fantasy and 40k, I suppose. We are talking a long time, so who knows what's going to happen that far away? A new competitor might come into the market and just take it by storm, and GW might be forced to change in that respect. So I think because of the fact that if 30k is just coming in now, in the same way that 40k was coming in with Fantasy and that, I don't think that'll be happening in the next 10, 15, 20 years. So it may not be much of a worry.
Yeah.
But if
I mean,
it
the
did
thing to remember is only Forge will do the 30k rules, and that pretty much everything in 30k you can use in 40k. Because
Yeah,
I'm doing Heresy Era Iron Warriors, and there's a real perk where I'm not doing them too chaosy, so I could use them as either loyalists or thingy. Because they did it with Lord of the Rings. They did like this sort of like a fantasy fellowship where you could change the history. You know, I've seen stuff where Dawn had turned evil. He was the War Master, and you know who'd side with who, and you get quite some interesting stories. You know, like alternate timelines and stuff. But there's not many things that aren't compatible. There's is it Volkite weaponry, but you could just class them as plasma no problem in 40k, and you just end up wiping all the Xenos.
So if you pick up a 40k army and a 30k army, they can play together in a game of 40k, and you use the 30k rules in them. Because I mean, I've seen that a few times on channels like Mini Wargaming, and it doesn't.
Did they do that?
Yeah, they did 30k World Bearers against 40k Eldar.
Yeah.
And they played the 40k rules. It just flows like it would a regular game of 40k.
I saw some 30k Legion. I think it was World Eaters against Tau as well.
Yeah. It literally
worked
makes no
well.
difference. It just you play it like a game of 40k.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the
sorry.
30k rules actually they're more army rules, because in the 30k rules it goes, oh yeah, use the Warhammer 40,000 rules. It's the same rule set. It's just different codices and army books essentially.
From the train team, and he said they'll just rename 40k and 30k to Warhammer, which is quite an interesting comment, I thought.
It's inevitable. I'm conscious of the time, and I'm also conscious that we seem to be talking about 30k, which we could wander on forever. But
that.
I just wanted to say one more Sigmar-related thing, and that is, I've had a thought, and it's a bit out there, but we've already said that they were creating models for Fantasy in 2014, but not releasing them, right? We think with a mind to release Age of Sigmar 2 years down the line. But it's chicken egg, so did people stop playing Fantasy because no new models are coming out for them? And therefore it wasn't popular, and then Games Workshop felt the need to kill Fantasy and bring out Age of Sigmar. It's all a big circle.
I think
if they'd have carried on supporting it, would people have dropped? Would it have dropped popularity as much as it did? Basically, is what I'm thinking.
Potentially, but I think like Mike from Mammoth Painting Studios was saying earlier, towards the end of 7th and the beginning of 8th edition Fantasy, it was starting to dwindle. So I mean, when was 8th edition released, Mike?
It was summer 2010.
Yeah, so
right.
going back
so it's long before
years,
then.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I think that Fantasy started probably around that time as opposed to 2015, 2014 era.
Yeah, I think it was early 2000. Yes, early 2014. It slowed down, and I think we had 2 army books. The Wood Elves was the last one. That was May, and there was nothing all over summer. But the funny thing is that there was enough stuff in the story that didn't quite add up. I remember reading there was an Orion trilogy, and it just seemed really, really apocalyptic that you just couldn't go back from. Then when we saw the Age of Sigmar made a lot of sense. But it had been dwindling for quite a while. They got a lot of new models actually for the end times. I mean, a lot of new models. Yeah, I mean they've all translated over to Age of Sigmar, no problem. But yeah,
well, they probably had.
Yeah,
I remember looking through the models for Fantasy probably a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and just thinking how bad the collections were. There were maybe 2 plastic kits per army, and the rest of it was metal or resin. It was diabolical. When you come from like a 40k side of things and actually look at the models that the products they had available for Fantasy, it was absolutely awful. it was shocking. I mean, and considering that it started being unpopular in 2010, I'd say that could also be because there just weren't the models for it. It was crap.
I think the other thing with fantasy as well, the thing I think we found most frustrating about it, I think when looking at it, was the way you had to model your models to fit on tiny square bases and put them in rank file. So like, okay, these models we have up here, we posed these and we spent like 10 minutes posing them for like just scenic purposes, just to look cool, but to play like...
Because we're 40k players.
Yeah, exactly. But to play like 40 spearmen, and let's say they've got shield as well, shield, spear, and then that's how they have to all be posed.
I remember years and years and years ago, my brother get a ton of Tomb Kings, and we were there, sat there colour coordinating all the bases and things, and writing all the numbers on the bases so that when you put them in their regiments, they all slot together, and they didn't. That's all.
You've never known the true pain of ranking up Dark Elf Corsairs.
So I mean, like, that's something I find amazing about this game is you can just do whatever with the model, and that's, I think, the big change for. Well, that's what makes me prefer this to fantasy, because I love the hobby and the hobby side of it more than I do the gaming necessarily. So being able to model some cool models just to look cool, as opposed to actually fit in a movement tray, is kind of cool.
Yeah,
I think we've just.
I have to say, from a gaming aspect too, as well. One of the things that really turned me off when it came to fantasy was just seeing like the trays and having your deployment like in these units of blocks. And I would look at that and I would just go, "There's like no flexibility there." At least with like a scout squad, you can put them up in a building or something, and you don't have to have like this tray that you're pushing them along. And just looking at like the rank and file, I was just like, man, you could just take like a book, put it on the table and go, that's basically the same footprint as a bunch of Skaven, and just push the book across the table. That's the way it was to me. And I'm like, well, at least with 40k, you have individual little, circle bases. You have a unit that you can move around. You don't just have blocks versus blocks. And that's the way I've always looked at it when I was younger. And I was like, I can't get into that kind of stuff. It looked too restrictive to me. I want more flexibility to be able to, and same thing with the hobby aspect as well. Being able to pose your models, not only in the actual physical pose itself, but being able to position it much differently on the table every single time instead of having just blocks of troops run into each other.
I think we've been going on a bit, so I think we've actually just discovered why fantasy failed, and that is rank and file. And I think we can leave that as a valid conclusion at this point.
That's it, sir. 100%.
Before we talk all night.
Movement trays are the definition.
Glad we got to the bottom of it.
Yeah,
definitely.
There you go,
Right.
Gabe Workshop. You're welcome.
Good point to end on. Right, so we've been going an hour and 10 minutes. What do we normally do next? So, I guess we can throw over, for a little while at least, we can throw over to viewer questions. There we go. So, has anyone noticed any questions that were imperative to us?
There was one question that I saw.
Go for it.
Near the very beginning of the video, actually, and it did kind of really stick in the mind. And it was I can't remember who it was now, but they did ask the question: if you're playing Age of Sigmar with a comp system, are you playing Age of Sigmar?
Yeah.
And are you playing it like how it's supposed to be played? And I can understand why someone might ask that, but I think my personal response to that would be: there are games of 40k where we come up with some crazy random rules to make it look awesome, but I wouldn't question whether we're playing 40k or not.
Yeah.
It's not like you're picking up the ball in football. It's not.
Yeah, it's not that fundamental of a change. I'm going to pick up and run now. Just
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're still rolling the dice for the same reasons.
Yeah, and that's what I think. So I can understand people who read the rules as just like this one block, and this is how it has to be played. But I think you're supposed to be creative with Age
It
of Sigmar.
specifically says at the end,
The most important rule. I love this.
the most important rule is to have fun. Yeah. But it says, there's always going to be stuff that happens. Have a quick chat and apply the solution that makes the most sense or seems the most fun. And so they know that it's not balanced. They know that you're going to do different rules. You're going to say I'm going to bring a tank to Age of Sigmar and it's going to do this and that. They know you're going to do stuff like that because that's the sort of game they want to get it across. Because they don't want to restrict what people want to do.
Yeah.
As soon as you start restricting what people can do, that's
Age of Sigmar is effectively an open sandbox.
exactly.
But I think that's a really good selling point.
I think you might be right on that one.
Yeah.
Did anyone else see any major questions?
There's none
Doesn't
coming.
Not too many questions there at the moment.
I'm looking for questions, Joel.
The question is, have we answered everybody's questions? Are they all asleep?
Option B.
I like to think we've been so thorough with what we've been talking about that no one's got any questions about anything in life anymore. We've just fixed
Exactly.
everything.
We've covered everything we need to. Everything that will ever need to be covered.
Exactly.
YouTube may as well shut down now.
Yep. Very true.
Cool. Well, I think that's. Maybe we have just answered all of the questions.
Yeah, I think if we drag this on for too much longer, we may well be here all night.
I will grow
Right.
a beard.
Yeah.
Cool.
I have you all muted. Thank you. Waterloo 745.
That's what I was thinking.
It's obviously because we're all that pretty. He doesn't need sound, right?
So, Train Shooter has posed Kings of War. Now, Kings of War, when Sigmar came out, basically opened their doors and said, any of your armies for fantasy will work with our rule set. Come and play with us. What are people's thoughts on that?
Short-term games.
Good business.
Yeah, but long-term, I don't think it'll work because obviously we have discovered movement trays are the death of games.
This is true. Yes.
So they've got all the short-term gains there, but got to drop the movement trays. Kings of War.
Yeah, there's a lesson for you, Kings of War. Legion of Gamza have spoken.
I think it's there for like historical gamers who want to branch out, really, because I know a lot of I know quite a few historical games like Napoleonics and stuff tend to use rank and file. So I think it's for people who want to branch out, maybe in the alternate fantasy route, as well as for something to lean on, as well as having some space for historicals now these days with rank and file. So I think the majority of the hobby or the community has evolved. Evolved's the wrong word, I would say, but evolved away from rank and file and onto more linear structures, if that makes sense, such as the round bases with measured coherent bases.
That makes sense. So it's historical people who've gone a bit quirky.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to bring rank and file to 40k, all you have to do is go to the dollar store, buy a bag of green army men, glue them to like a cooking tray, and like there you go. So I don't know, like whenever I just think about that stuff, I'm just like, oh, I don't even want to deal with that kind of stuff.
And just lean it up against a ruin, just at 45
yeah, exactly.
or more.
They're going over dangerous terrain. Get like your magnifying glass out, like this guy failed it.
Definitely.
Okay, this game needs to be made.
Yeah. So, though, Gamza's just made a very interesting point in the chat, and that is that Nick has amazing legs.
Yes,
I think we can probably leave it at that, to be honest. So
That's
that
next
seems
week's
like
topic decided then.
a good conclusion. Next week conclusion.
I mean, to be
will
honest, I don't know why Nick shows his face on the webcam. I think he should just tilt it downwards towards his legs.
Next time, yeah.
So next week's show, because they were such a close runner-up last week, the second place on the poll was our favourite skirmish games, and we'd also chuck in which of Nick's legs do we prefer, left or right. So I think that'll do for now.
But that's in 2 weeks' time, though, isn't it?
2 weeks' time, so it'll be at 8:30 London, Dublin time, possibly. I think that's GMT, maybe. I don't know. But then we'll be doing some updates between then anyway. We'll probably launch another poll during next week's show to find out what you guys want us to chat about after that. So I guess from me, it's thank you very much and bye. Anyone else wants to say bye? Go for it now before I kill the stream.
Bye.
All right, I'll see you guys later. This is Almost There Gamza out. Make sure that you subscribe to my channel. I'm the coolest guy that's ever existed.
Oh, is it shameless plug time?
And Nick's legs.
Well, signing
Yes,
out.
Callum's hair.
Unfortunately.
Right.
Wish. Yeah.
Good night, guys. See you next time.
All right.
Ta-ra.
Yeah.